Hi, this is Tony at Cover Magazine. I'm speaking to Leon Lieberman, the CEO and founder of Growcom Group of Companies. Leon, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me this morning.
Thanks, Tony. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Leon, we're talking about a topic that is very close to my heart as well. I've seen a lot being done in this environment, but there is still a massive gap and a lot of focus being needed. And I'm talking about financial inclusivity. So maybe just to kick off with a bit of positioning, in your opinion, besides unemployment, which we know is a huge problem, what are the three main stumbling blocks to financial inclusivity?
Tony, thanks for allowing me. Just before I start with that, that is, I don't see it as a stumbling block. I see it as an opportunity. Actually, South Africa is now, whether we want to admit it or not, where South Africa, the Afrikaners were in 1993 with the Great Depression. That is as simple as that. That is a cycle of life. You know, Tony, if you go and look at the research and centuries of experience, that shows there's a positive correlation between a society's degree of openness and tolerance for the entrepreneurially and independent and creative mindedness and its economic success. Desmond Tutu, the Archbishop, is one of my favorite. Him and his daughter, Mapo, wrote a book, Made for Goodness. And in 1985, when 21 youngsters were killed by the defense force, police force on the Cape Flats, the Arch has always called for a march, and they said no. And he said, he termed it called God pressure. It is an instruction from God. God is almost like the insurance term, vicarious liability to look after your flock. He called a march. They thought 1,000 people were going to come, but 30,000 people came. And for the first time, the white mayor of there. I think you talk about inclusivity before I go about what can we do about solving our big unemployment rate. My question is, since 1994, we haven't become, in my humble opinion, an open society. Because what you've got on the one hand, you have big money trying to control the economy and basically co-opting blacks. And then you have the current government and the unions, on the other hand, that's also wanting to control their view of building the economy. And you've got two views that actually diametrically opposed to each other. So what we need in South Africa is a new type of organization that can bring the meeting of minds together. Strange, Tony, before I go to that question. In November 1997, in my first ever meeting in the corporate world, I heard the people over talking about the corruption. And I said, you know, corruption happens when the corrupt from the old regime meet up with the corrupt from the new regime, and everybody get nailed in between. And we in 2022, and it's actually gone worse. Okay, but the point is, we need to get South Africa to become a growing nation again. The great American theoretical activist Richard Eckhoff said, rubbish dumps grow, but they don't develop. Okay, now let's start with the first question. Coming from education myself is important. I'm called the Maverick. I was a high school principal at the age of 29. I served on the Minister's Reference Group of Educational Management. And I used to challenge them in our colloquiums and meetings about we are fiddling with the quality of education. And Benjamin Disraeli said, on the quality, the education, on the education of this nation, does the quality of this nation depend? John F. Kennedy termed it twice. And doesn't matter to me how we flour and butter up our matric results. Our education system has become a mess. You know, there was a saying in the 70s, we used to export apricot jam to Japan. The Japanese flattened the jam tins, made dinky toys, exported them South Africa and made some nice money out of that. It is now more than 60 years later, and we still haven't improved our manufacturing ability. Now, to be brash, in 1994, when the retrenchment came in the government sector, we didn't understand why they wanted to retrench. Only afterwards, we saw it in perspective. In one of my university Psychology 3 textbooks on industrial psychology, in the late 60s and early 70s, the Europeans and the Americans were already retrenching, setting the pensionable age at 55. Now, Joseph Schumpeter and Nikolai Kondrativ, who talks about a destructive rebirth, says that new companies must often destroy their predecessors so that we can create newer models. It is not that they're destroying the old company. They're destroying their old outdated methodologies. And one good example of that is when Raymond Ackerman was fired, he started Pick n Pay. And we know where Pick n Pay is today. Now, it is not just the schooling system. It is also the university system. And I'm unequivocal in saying that. Not one of our universities are focused on trying to create the thought leadership or the visionary leaders that can take our country to the next level. Drew Golden-Forst, the president of Harvard, said at West Point in 2016. She spoke about goats, the people that came last in class, and some famous people. Her article was a topic was the doer of the doer of deeds, and wait. The speaker of words and the doer of deeds. And what she actually says is that 50% or more than 50% of world leaders and CEOs are social scientists. I'm a social scientist. Now, I'm going to make a very controversial statement now. I said this before, that the economic revolution, which is needed now to uplift our economy, is going to be driven by the UWC class of 76. We were a cohort of 3,000 that lived almost in a closed community. And and it will be mostly colored, but it will be inclusive. And when I mentioned this at one meeting, one apartheid apparatchik almost got a heart attack when I said that. And I said also that blacks will unfortunately only become wealthy after 2030. And this black lady came to me and said, Leon, what do you mean? And I explained it in perspective, and she said, no, she understands it has got nothing to do with race. Now, in order to create an economic revolution or that, Ludwig von Mises said, innovation must be the whim of the elite before it becomes the need of the masses. So unless we get the education, quality of education right, understand, we will not. And now I'm going technically after my alma mater, UWC. I've got a very close affinity with him. There is not one I mostly know the Colored Society, university rector or vice rector, that has started a business or built a business. Some of their children don't even work overseas in teaching positions. If you look at Johan van Zyl, he was the rector of university, he became the CEO of Sanlam. It happens where people migrate from academia into that. It's almost like in my case, I migrated from academia. Okay, so that is about education. That is about education. We need to fix our education system. That is number one. Then number two, and I've got a passion for this, our lack of entrepreneurial growth and development. In 2008, the GEMS, Global Entrepreneur Monitoring GEMS research has proven that South Africa had the lowest total entrepreneurial activity in the world. You know, Tony, it has actually gone backwards. I've checked the research of 2012 and 2015. And Steve Biko said that we need to pump some life into the life of the black man. And Musikus Wayo said in his book, The Black Man's Medicine is the White Man. So unless Chief Lediga said in 2007, if blacks want to be permanently incorporated into the economy of South Africa, they have to build businesses for themselves and the family. But all entrepreneurship starts with a family, understand? And my best lesson in life is when my father was retrenched in late 1994 after 18 years. He started a spaza shop and children learn by example. You know, Tony, I walked out of my medical job. I was 29 when I was a principal in September 2002. And then I started a training, first a brokerage and a training company in the insurance sector. But all through the years, the guys, colored, white, and black, came to me and said, Leon, why don't you start an insurance business? You've got the guts and the drive. And through the years, I started. But you know, Steve Jobs said about entrepreneurship, it is not easy. I use the example, it's like jumping, your boss coming into your office on the 19th floor and said, you must pack your bags, you'll be retrenched. You go out on the balcony and you decide you're going to jump. In mid-air, you sing, I Believe I Can Fly. And you land on your feet with no money, just guts, your knowledge and that. And I always use this example. About 7, 8 years ago, I used to pick up 5-cent and 10-cent pieces in the road so that I can have 4 rand to make a phone call because a CEO of an insurance company wants to see me in Johannesburg. I get to Johannesburg. I meet with a person. Now I don't know where I'm going to sleep at night. Now I walk past the road lodge in Rivonia until something in my mind clicks. Who can help me? Fine. Don't worry. But the next day, off with a goud train to OR Tambo. Now I sit there where I'm going to get a plane ticket. But you know, Tony, I've slept in police stations. I walked, I rode with taxis, hitchhiked with friends. And technically today, I'm the majority shareholder of a 2B insurance company and a bank. And it all started with my father being retrenched. And that is now, I always maintain, Raymond Ackerman says how poor they grew up when they got to South Africa. And when he was fired, he had a wife and 4 children. I imagine Richard Maponya and Herman Mashaba in the dark days of apartheid. And that is what an entrepreneur. They don't worry how bad the situation. And you know, the blessings of this is, Tony, we've got 2 sons. The one is 33. They suffered a lot to what I've been through. They've got an IT company with 28 people. And I'm going to help them build that capacity to 100 people. The youngest one is 31. He's got a master's in biomedical science. The moment he finishes, gets his HSBC accreditation, I will set him up in his own biomedical science business. None of my sisters and brothers, only one of the 6 besides myself, passed matric. But he had to leave because there was no money. The others have got no matric, but 4 of the 6 have got their own businesses, and the children will inherit the business. There's a saying that says that if a professor retires, his children don't inherit his business. And then we come to the third one, and I call it the collusive behavior between big money and the those in government. And I'm going to give you a classical example. In the early 2000s, there was the demise of Prosano Medical Scheme and Cape Teachers Professional, or what you call the UTASA Teachers Unions.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that was a collusion between big money and the unions. Those organizations were for the colored people, icons. What has happened? Mediap didn't die out. The South Africans are on a wys unie continue, and this is what happened. The question is, who is this collusion? Now you should know about the Taylor report that was done in 1997 to 1999, but published in 2002. And on page 97, the Competition Commission says they were concerned about the apparent low level of competition in the financial services market controlled by 4 or 5 groups. Tony, it hasn't changed much. It said there, more encouragement should be given to smaller mutual societies to develop into real competitors. And that is what is happening, you see. Now we need to fix that. And those races are never equal. In 2004, I met the son of the gentleman whose father built a 41 billion empire. And he said, Leon, get me an actuary and a Jewish CA. I got many actuaries, but I never got a Jewish CA. His father made me an offer on the 22nd of August 2013. I don't forget. I must put something in a place. I come back to him. I haven't forgotten. Visionaries, don't worry about time. Another unit in his company told me on November of that year, they've got an offer for me that I haven't forgotten. So that tells to me, if we can get those 3 pillars right, the quality of education, entrepreneurship, and what I've done is I've developed a training manual, Growcom induction manual, the way to wealth in the new South Africa. Because what I've picked up when I trained about 4,000 brokers, they didn't understand why the world economy collapsed. The motto of the London School of Economics is Reram cognoscere causas, not read out ram, to know the causes of things. And then I taught them, and I had CFAs, PFAs, personal financial, certified financial planners, people with BComs and that didn't understand. And they were so grateful that at least they understand now. And we need to develop educational systems that can force that into. So, and then the third one is, there need to be a third force created that can be placed between big money on the one side and the government on the one side to create a new dynamic. Thanks. Those are the 3 cornerstones. If we get that right, then we will fly.
So part of how you aim to get that right is that you started Growcom. And maybe you can just tell us, how did this come about? And, where do you fit into this Growcom?
Strange, it was a guy in September 2012, after I technically gave up training, but I'll come back to that now. And I said, I want to start an organization to change the financial services industry. And we're looking for, and he said, man, Leon, I think the best name is Growcom. It stands for Growing Communities. And the model hasn't changed. It has not changed at all. It's technically the same since I said at a meeting in November 2002, about 2,000 brokers, I want to start the Black Alexander Forbes. Growcom is a circular economic model where you use a whole economic model, but you use financial services to set up businesses. And then from the financial services, you have accountants, lawyers, business support services to help build smaller businesses in 200 communities of 100,000 each in South Africa. It's about 20 million. If you go back, you should know about frustration aggression analysis, the Boston Tea Party. It takes about 15% of the nation to create an economic revolution. Growcom will roughly, if I've done my analysis, cover about 20% of the population. But the core of this is education. Rosabeth Moskanter in a book, World Class, talk about the 3 C's. Competence, confidence, connections, but the connections means networks. You get those 3 right. And if you look at all successful organizations wherever in the world, competence, confidence, and the networks. And you know, a few years ago in Centurion, one of the most senior compliance persons in the country came to me and he said, Leon, as jy die dag reg is, dan kom 1000 klein minimum wit makelaars na jou toe, want hulle sê jy sal altyd opstaan vir die klein mens. Peter Amadeo Giannini, that started Bank of America during the great San Francisco earthquake in 1906, helped the little man when no one wanted to help the little man. Now this was a drive in me, as you say, the God pressure always to do that. Now further to this, everybody in Growcom becomes a partner and becomes a shareholder. And then for every 100 Rand profit we make after cost, 40 Rand goes to Growcom, 35 Rand to the client, and 25 Rand to a beneficiary organizations. Then of Growcom's 40 Rand, we still put a 10 Rand into a business fund. So our model is basically self-funding, but we are not going to say no to partners. So initially 70% of our business will be in the Old Cape province, but our economy, and I predicted this 10 years ago, is moving south and west. We're moving from an old mining industrial economy to a knowledge economy. So like in all success, America, you have San Francisco, California, and New York. In Australia, you have Canberra, the political capital, Sydney, the financial capital. It happens all over the world. That is how it goes. So the reason why the market that I'm focusing on, they're sitting actually on a lot of wealth between 250 to 420 billion in assets. So that is basically at another stage we can deal how we're going to expand that further. But that is the use pooling the financial services to use that money to set up other businesses to build a fully inclusive economy.
And that's what you are going to try to do. So you talk about getting communities involved. That's one of your main strategies. So how are you going to get the communities involved?
Only that I've done, because I'm left-handed like Steve Jobs, we do it differently. What I've done, I've capitalized on my UWC networks. I mean, we in the churches together, we in rugby together. We mostly came from the educational background, and on all those, capitalized on those. I've crisscrossed the country over the 9 years. A few years before COVID, I did the analysis of Google that I think I've technically, there was 1 year where I traveled once around the world from flying 40,000 kilometers. So I've been in every little town in South Africa. I've traveled by bus. It's almost like, you know, I liken my story to the case of Colonel Sanders. When they closed both a highway in front of the restaurant where he made his chicken, he took his $60 pension check and drove across America. He sold 4 KFC franchises on the basis of trust. Within 2 years, there was 400 KFC franchises across America. But getting the communities involved, this was the hardest part. Because our people were so used under apartheid that it's only certain parts of the population that can start business. Because it seems like the fear of God was imprinted in them. How can this man who has never been in insurance and banking want to start an insurance company and a bank? And how can this man start a business with no money? He tells us he sleeps in police station and he sleeps by people. But you don't need money to start a business. You should have read this article, the 7 roller coaster stages of running your business. That says, number 7, you only learn how to run a business. I say a country, a family, when you run out of money. Because that's the best time to start money. And we will have, just to, I'm here in Gauteng. I'm flying back to Cape Town on Wednesday. There's 7 guys from the Vaal that's coming to see me today. And they're black. They heard about the Groko model. They so in awe. So we will have 40 cells across the country. The idea is to develop each cell and this own FSP and a cell captive insurer. And that the money circulates in that community. And once we uplift each town and each community and each family, we will actually uplift the whole society in South Africa. And I'm not gonna stop. For me, it's a crusade. And the beauty, Tony, is if you go to Clem Santa's book, The High Road, it says there, in all winning nations, people are not worried about the color of the skin of the leader, because they are more interested in making money for their family and for society. And that underpins, and never mind what they do, for as long as the good Lord keep me on this country, I will fight this fight. And I can tell you, Tony, I've got the best skills in South Africa around me. I've mentioned some of the names to you. People will just get a shock one day when they see who is part of Grocom. And the reason why they bought into Grocom is because they buy into the value system. And that is basically what it is.
So where are you in this process of this vision?
Now, currently, because we have INCITA accreditation, we signed a MOU with the services CETA when they want us to do 25 qualifications. And then we'll go into bank CETA and facet. We stay in the financial services. But what I'm definitely going to go into also is tourism, because I don't see it as very much different, and sport, because I've got a passion for sport. We are recruiting 5,000 graduates, mostly graduates as reps, 125 for each of the 40 cells, plus 400 management. To have 125 young people, you need to have at least about 10 managers. You know that also the old research that one person can't manage more than 8 others. Then further to this, 1,600 management that will support like lawyers, accountants, business consultants and that. And you ask the question, but where are you going to get them from? What I've picked up the last 2 years, there's a cohort in the mostly colored, but it's starting to happen in white society and to a lesser extent in black society, between the ages of 29 to 35, that doesn't want to work for the big corporates anymore. And they are ready to step into businesses. So Grocom will be a different model. So we will have a national business consultancy on a deal. We'll have a national estate agency, a national legal organization. It is not different. It is what the Afrikaners did in 1993. Okay. So basically, we will soon have the biggest sales and sales support system in South Africa. Product-wise, we already have 2 funeral products, and we will have within the next year 25 insurance products. Someone joked with me one day that this one church group that wanted to join us, said in Afrikaans, ja, Leon sê, hy het 30 aktuarisse om toe sê ek, man sê vir hom, ek het eintlik 40. En by senior, en as 10 wat ek nou kan bel. I don't talk about that. So all of these products were offered after 10 minutes after I sold them the Growcom story. I haven't forgotten some of, as I said, some of them 8 years ago. And then we wanted to start a co-op bank on the 23rd of September last year. We had an online meeting with the Reserve Bank, 7 people. And they said, Leon, don't stop your passion. And they recommended to us that we start a mutual bank. Now, I'm not in a hurry with that. So we've got our structures in place. I know fully well what I'm doing. Some people say I'm mad. They said the same about Richard Branson. They said the same about Steve Jobs. They probably said the same about Raymond Ackerman. But you need mad people to change the world.
So now, who needs to get involved with this, and how do they do this?
Now the famous American futurist Jim Carroll does work for Boeing, and that he says it's about partnerships. Tony, I believe in partnerships. You get there faster. I believe, why must you reinvent the wheel if the wheel is still there? There are a few smaller insurance companies that are battling. Why must I go and set up a new license if our passion is to develop people and develop the sales forces? Why can't we help them grow their business? Okay. Then smaller brokers, irrespective of color. What will happen is we will ask them to mentor younger brokers. And because a lot of them haven't got succession plans, their children are maybe overseas. So these younger brokers of any color that they mentor can later on buy out the brokerages. So they have a nice money and they can continue mentoring the people. But last but not least, a partner. And I mentioned earlier in my interview about the father and the son. If they recommend a partner or funding partner to me, it will be open hands. Any business is based on a value system. And why I will take up their office for any time, besides the fact that I met the old man 4 times. They've never been involved in any corporate scandal. They've always fought asset managers and investment bankers taking them over. Because what has happened is when people buy out these smaller companies, you cannot let an entrepreneur who's got a green shirt change him into a blue shirt. Even in big organizations, Edcon, Massmart and all this. When there's a different culture coming from the outside, it has been proven that 60% of that fail. And most of them, that the company that takes over the others actually lose money. And what I like about them, their business, they're not worried about the competition. They've got a very strategic business and they grow their business organically. And then the last thing is, this man, even before BEE, he's always done more work for his black employees. He treated them the same. Now, I believe if we want inclusivity, we must, if you foster that culture where people feel they are part of the organization, they own the organization, you build a culture. And this is the type of organization that I want to build a Growcom into. Someone asked me, are you the CEO? I said, no, I'm not the CEO. I'm the strategist. They said about the chairman of Hyundai or Samsung. He's quietly in the background, but he controls the strings. I always tell people, a man I met 4 times, Raymond Ackerman, he appears so nice. But I think let him be in a meeting. then the dog in him comes out. It's about business.
Mm.
My dream is, once we now, and it's very structured, I want to go into a classroom and talk to young people and all people, and soos ek sê, ek bou hulle koppe, develop people. That is me. The money has never driven me. I will probably give all my money away. My kids are okay. But I will only give the money if you can prove to me that you can at least create opportunities for 10 other people. So that we can, as you asked in the beginning, how do we solve the massive unemployment problem in this country and inclusivity? So that is basically all, Tony. I've got a passion for what I'm doing, and no one is going to stop that passion.
Well, I wish you luck, and I hope that you get there. I'm sure that you will. There's enough, as you say, partners who have the same vision and who would like to join. So good luck with that. And as per usual, we'll be there to follow the journey and to see how it happens.
No, thanks, Tony. I always maintain that I've been made offers by people. And I say, and someone said the other day, people that's been loyal to me and stood by me when I had nothing. Doesn't matter if someone offers me a better rate or something cheaper. I'll stick to the person that made me the offer. Because they were there with you when you had nothing. And Cover Magazine will always be part of GoCom. That's my word, and I don't break my word.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Tony. I enjoyed the interview. You go well, eh?
Same
Good
there.
luck.
Thank you very
Bye.
much, Leon. Bye.